Hi everyone, this is Clara Lawrence. Join me today. I make a little something special for my mother for Mother's Day. I play with some molds and drying flower petals for the first time. Interesting little experience. And I'm using these guys here. So join me and let's have some fun. Hey everyone, it's Mother's Day coming up and I'm gonna work with these little guys. Beautiful roses I picked from my garden. And unfortunately, I don't know of a way to capture the fragrance and stuff. But this is something my mother really enjoys, and every so often I'll bring her some flowers from my garden. She had a stroke a little over a year ago, so the simple things are what matters with her right now. And I'm just taking advantage of that situation as far as gifts and things that are simple and sentimental. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart some of these flowers, get them down to some basic little bitty parts and like petals and things like that, and I'm going to dry them and then put them in some molds. So I've got some molds here that are like little bitty bowls. You can't really see that one too much, but this other one you can kind of get an idea. It's kind of like a little pinch pot kind of a thing. So we're going to try and see if I can put petals in there. And then the other thought is to, right at the end, maybe put in a couple drips of like alcohol ink, and so it'll mingle in with the petals. We'll give it a shot, see if it works. But anyway, thinking of Mama on this Mother's Day. All right, now that I have all the flower petals separated in the little bitty flower buds, I'm gonna start layering them up. Now this product mentioned to put a thin coat on the bottom of it, layer up the petals, put another thin coat, add more petals, etc., and then put a lid on it so it wants an airtight container. So, and you're to check on it every couple of days and see how it does as far as drying out. So the premise is basically I'm going to be embedding these guys in resin. You don't want any water content in resin, and also we want to preserve the colors as well. So that's the other part of the drying to help preserve that. So we go on to the next step. Hey, I wanted to talk a couple things through. First off, this flower drying crystals, they're designed to pull moisture out of things. So I just was being cautious and using my hands. I'm sure it's not a good thing to ingest, so take reasonable precautions, especially when dealing with chemicals to begin with. The other thing is, and this is kind of a funny thing, so I don't know if you could see it when I was working on it. Let's see if I can get it up close and if it'll actually focus on them. Got a little bonus critter in there with the flower petals. So we'll have to let him loose in the garden. We don't want to put him in the candy dish. That wouldn't be good. Anyway, so we're going to put this off to the side, check it in a couple of days, possibly another day. And after that, we can pick through it. I put in clearly too many petals, and the reason for that is in the moment when you're doing the dish, you want to have plenty available to you so that you can pick and choose the sizes and even colors. Maybe I'm feeling a little bit more on using the yellow petals that day. I might want to put in more yellow petals or a lot more of the little guys. So I have a few extra, and you don't know how the process is going to be, like if you accidentally rip one of them, or maybe one of them dried a little browner. So that way you always have plenty of options. There's a little bit of an unpredictability to this, so I'm prepared. Anyway, I will continue this in a few days. Bye. Hey everyone. Okay, now it's been about 3 days since my flowers have been soaking in the drying solution, or the drying crystals, and I wanted to give them a check. Let's see. Never done this before, so I don't really know what to check for totally. I guess my main thing is to make sure that they're dried out and there's no moisture. And well, right now they kind of feel really dry, almost like a dried out leaf would feel. So I think we are there. So I'm going to fish all these guys out, so that way I have plenty to choose from. And we'll get on with the resin. So here, let me show you one up close here. So you remember the rose petals, right? Man, the rose colored ones. So see, super lightweight. Let me pick that guy up. So it kept the color intact really well. We have a nice variation of tones there, from a yellow down to a deep pink. So that looks pretty good. The yellow one also kept the color as well. So that's good. Let's see if we can find one of the little buds. And that looks pretty good too. It's still very delicate looking, which is what you hope for with a flower. So I think this is good to go. Now start fishing. Well, I think I got enough to play with. I'm gonna go and try and very carefully go outside with maybe some compressed air and see if I can blow off the rest of the powder and stuff. And then I'll be on to the next step. See you in a moment. Hey everyone. Okay, I've got my resin mixed up. I'm using Stone Coat's Art Coat resin. And by the way, if you think of doing another crazy thing like I just did and take these suckers outside with the little compressed air can to blow them off, think twice, because think of leaves blowing in the wind. Yeah, I had to run amok picking up little petals off the ground and stuff. So that was fun. Anyway, so what I usually do is on my molds, when I'm not using them, either wrap them up in saran wrap, or I simply store them upside down on a parchment sheet of paper. Keeps debris and particles out from the inside of the mold, and it's just a really easy way to do it. Most of the time the mold will clean off pretty easy with the cured resin, so I do that after I've used my mold. Clean it off real good, flip it over, put it on a clean parchment paper, and it just keeps it clean and ready to go for the next time. So I'm gonna take the saran wrap off. I'm gonna fill these up about halfway with resin. So about like halfway with resin, and place the little petals inside. On one of these guys, I'm gonna fill it up to the top after I've got all the petals in place, and then I'm gonna dip in or add some drops of alcohol ink on top. So the alcohol ink will go through and play like little tendrils amongst the petals. So we're gonna try that out and see if it works. On the second one, I'm not sure which one I'm gonna do yet. I'm gonna fill it up halfway with resin, let it set, fill it up the rest of the way with resin, and then maybe add a color on the very top of it. So when you pull it out of your mold, your bowl, like this, the bottom side of it will have a little bit of color on the base, and then the flower petals will be floating in it. So that's the theory. So we'll try both and see which one works better, and who knows, maybe we'll end up giving both of them to Mom. So anyway, on to the next step. Okay, I ended up filling up both of them pretty much full with resin. Sometimes you just don't know until you get into the moment. Now, this guy here, I think I'm gonna try some alcohol inks and just doing some drips. I don't know how the flower petals are gonna react to it, but sometimes you just don't know until you try. It could either be a hit or a miss. And ooh, I got a little bit of white ink left. Hopefully this will be enough. Okay, good, it's not clogged. Sometimes when things get low, they get clogged too. All right, so what I'm gonna use is just pinata inks, and I picked a purple, a magenta, and a yellow. And I figured those colors would work good with what we already have. And I'm not gonna do a whole lot, just, you know, a couple. See how things go. I thought with the sides being so deep, it might have these long little tendrils mixed in with the petals. So that could be really cool. So we'll see. And then I might cap the whole thing off with a flood coat, like sand the bottom down and do a flood coat to get it nice and smooth if it turns out well. So cross our fingers. Okay, that's it. Now we let it sit and cure. And the other one here has a little bit of space, as you can see. And so once that cures, I'll do that color part, just a little bitty layer. Maybe some sparkly, like pink tones or something like that. So, all right, I'll see you guys in a bit. Hi everyone. Okay, these guys have had a chance to cure. They're definitely touchable. You probably leave a fingerprint mark in it, but it would self-heal. So it's ready to go into the next stage. And I don't know if you can tell how there's areas here that are uneven and stuff like that. And there's a little bit of space. So I'm gonna fill the rest of the space with a solid color, and it'll finish off the end of this. And then if I need to do any sanding after that's cured, I'll tend to that one. This other one here, I just topped off. It was a little bit, just with some clear. So we'll get to working with this guy here. And what I've done here is I've got a little bit of a pink wild jasmine from Resin Art, and I add a little bit of the bling to it. What is that stuff called? Primary Elements Bling It Violet, which I absolutely adore these interface colors. Let's pour that into here. And I have some clear that I can incorporate with this color as well too. Make sure we have enough. I think I am gonna have enough. This color is super pretty. I'm gonna gently move that around because we've got so many different shapes and stuff it's incorporating. I'm just gonna tap it around to make sure all the petals that are sticking up are covered. But that should do nice for a base. Yeah, and it came off pretty level. I was worried that some of the petals would stick through a little bit on this one, but I think that'll do just fine. Let me heat that up a little bit, get the bubbles out, put it to the side to cure, and we'll unveil this one tomorrow. Until tomorrow, guys. Hey, everyone. Okay, our molds have cured well, and it's time to get these little guys out and see what we got here. All right, so I'm gonna go and, as you can see, go around the sides and very carefully release it. It's not just I'm feeling it here, I'm also slowly feeling it move down and release. You can feel the movement in there. So I want to do it gradually, like a little bit here, a little bit to the side, and a little bit further down. And you do that each step all the way around. That way you can use your mold over and over and over. And then eventually I'm going to start pushing up from the bottom. And see if I can get this little guy out. It's more of a tactile thing. It's hard to show it on video. Man, it sure feels like I gotta wrestle with this thing, doesn't it? Ah. All right. Well, so far, looking pretty good. Oh, there's a little pop. All right, first little guy out. So we got a few little bubbles in there. I didn't have any casting resin. I was using my art coat. So I expected to have some bubbles. And to be honest with you, I wasn't that worried about it. This was a little bit of an experiment, but also a fun little project. So inside, that's what you got. You can see the petals in there pretty clearly. Let's see, and this is the one where I did a little bit of ink drips in there. So you can see a little bit of it coming down, but not too terribly much. It just does a little bit. So it kind of pretty much colors the base of it. And that's okay. But it's a pretty dainty little bowl. You see the little bitty white flowers in there. See if we can get in close. Right in there. So it could be a nice little bowl to like drop your rings in, a couple of earrings, you know, before you wash dishes, or like my mama likes to do some sewing, maybe put it in a couple sewing needles in that, you know, on her side table. So there's that one. And then this guy here. I'm going to do the same thing. Oh, this one definitely loosens up fast. Okay, now here's what I'm also doing is I'm pushing down below, since it came off so easy, to try to encourage the pushing up, because I want to use this mold over and over again, so you don't want to rip it. So I'm going to start off on the boring area. So there's my pink line. That's what I was hoping for, a nice little kind of a finishing element. And I'll go in, since this is still a little bit on the soft side, I can probably pick a lot of these little burrs off. If it had a sharp edge, like sometimes when you mold, it kind of comes up like that on the edges. And what I'll do is I'll just take a sandpaper and like at a 45-degree angle, just enough to take off that edge. I'll kind of do that kind of movement. And it's not enough that I'm going to go and reseal that in a shiny solution. I'll even still leave it a little bit on the rough side, but that way it's not sharp. Pop those off. Okay. So here's the edge here. That looks kind of interesting. You can see a lot more of the petals floating in the resin. And then that's what it looks like from the inside. So I have to admit, this one is probably, okay, yeah, this one's my favorite. And again, it's something that she can use for jewelry or whatever. You know, a little sewing needle. So it definitely works out well. Nice little dainty bit. You could have fun with colors with these little guys. And little odds and ends. And even maybe some treasures. If you want to put in a photograph in here. And maybe, say, a charm or a necklace that, say, like your grandmother used to wear a lot. And you want to have it as keepsake or something like that. You might put, you know, that in there. Excuse me. So, I think overall, I think she'll be happy with this for Mother's Day. Now, nobody give this away to my mama if you know her, okay? Holding you to it. Y'all have a good one. And hug the ones you love because you can. And like and subscribe this YouTube. Thanks.